topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Who is January Jones? She is not a young, beautiful, talented actress on Mad Men. She is not an older, gorgeous, exotic dancer from the Johnny Carson Show. She is an author, and she wrote Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th Commandment, that reached #1 at Amazon.com. She is a reality TV golf personality with World High Stakes Golf televised on HDNet. She is a humorist and winologist expert. She is your featured host today on January Jones Sharing Success Stories. So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and listen to Ms. Jones with her eclectic roster of guests as you learn life's lessons. These stories plus sharing equals success. Welcome, and remember, beware, because you are entering the no whining world of January Jones.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm January Jones, and I'd like to welcome you to our podcast today. As many of you know, I've been on hiatus, and it's so lovely to be back with you live again. By the way, we've renamed the show, and it's now January Jones Sharing Senior Success. As some of you know, I recently turned 80, and so now I want to share other senior stories. However, never fear, I'm still the glitter granny hat lady, and as you know, we all wear different hats every day. And today I'm wearing a glitter headband instead of a hat. Now, for my listeners, let me ask you a question. Do you really want to succeed in life? Well, that's an easy answer. Yes, sure, we all do. Tell me, do you ever wonder what you need to do to be successful? Have you ever thought about your problems? Yeah, I know we all have. Have you ever considered that your problems maybe are not your fault? Can you imagine what it would be like to let yourself off the hook today and every day in the future? Do you wish you could meet someone who could tell you how to do that? Yeah. Would you like to meet a man who is doing his own podcast right now? If you can answer yes or maybe to any of these questions that I've asked you, then you are in the right place. And I would like to welcome you to January Jones Sharing Senior Success. So relax, go get some wine, get some cheese, crackers, settle down, and let me tell you about my guest today. My guest tells us that if you really want to succeed in your life, you have to let yourself off the hook. Okay, got it. Stop trying to solve your problems and stop trying to manage your life through force and struggle. That just keeps you stuck. Instead, you need to realize that your problems aren't your fault. They're simply the result of using your brain the wrong way. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? My guest will show you how to unlock your natural creativity, enabling you to discover and live a truly rewarding and fulfilling life. It is my pleasure to welcome back to our podcast, all the way from southern Spain, Liam Naden. Hi, Liam. How are you doing today, dear?
Oh, hi, January. Great, thank you. Great to be back with you, and thanks again for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful. I've looked forward to this. It's been a long time since we've been together, and it's so wonderful to get to see you. And briefly, I didn't realize you were in Spain. How long have you been there?
Probably about a week now, I think, or maybe about 10 days. It's a bit hard. We were in France before that. We're traveling around, so yeah, about 10 days.
Okay, yeah. And you shared before we went on the air with me that you had been prior to Spain, where you're in an RV, right?
That's right.
That I
Yeah.
think you're in right now.
Yes, right here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
This is my recording studio as well.
Okay. So prior to that, you were on a sailboat, or you were at sea for quite a few years, weren't you?
Yeah, we spent 8 years traveling around Europe on a yacht
Oh
and just
my.
really exploring 15 countries and just, yeah, having a good look around and
Okay.
enjoying the
Uh, so you're living everyone's dream. Everyone at some point has dreamt about what you're doing. Tell me a little bit, what's that like for a relationship? And first of all, who are you with, and how long have you been together?
Oh, well, my partner and I, we've been together for about 14 years now, and we've been traveling as nomads for about 12 years. So we're pretty much homeless. And it's interesting you say, we're living people's dreams. I think really the message I try and share with people is that everybody's dream is different. And whoever's listening and watching, the key is to realize there's a dream inside you that is unique to you. And if you do use your brain the right way, which is sort of the theme of what I've learnt in my years, and you can live your dream. Not only can you live your dream, but you're supposed to be living your dream. That's what you're biologically designed to do. So, and the good thing about that is, instead of looking at other people and saying, I wish I was doing what they're doing, when your brain's working the right way, you go, wow, I'm doing what I should be doing. And it's unique to me. And that's when life becomes really exciting. Because people say, how do you do what you do? Well, how I do what I do is not really relevant to other people, because they need to be doing what they need to be doing to be happy.
Yeah. Okay. I'm on board with that. Everyone has to find their own path. Yeah. I mean, everyone would think, oh, I'd love to go off to sea for 8 years or travel in an RV throughout Europe. And you've actually are doing it. Tell me how this all came about. And I know you went from being a multimillionaire to becoming homeless. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I was one of those on the success track, always trying to figure out how I could be more successful and achieve more and set bigger goals, make more money, do all that sort of thing. And then, and I learned, as well as having my own businesses, I learned a lot about motivation and self-help and spirituality, and did all sorts of courses and seminars on, goal setting and peak performance. And yeah, in my mid-40s, I had it all on the outside, but I also had a lot of problems and stress. But then I lost everything and became homeless, and ended up moving in with my mother and sleeping on the sofa in the living room of her small apartment. So it was a bit of a shock. But from that experience, I really learned what it is that I'd been doing the wrong way. And because when I rebuilt my life, I attracted a new partner, the one I have now, and things were going a lot differently to what they had before. There wasn't the stress and the struggle, and I was doing things that I really enjoyed, was excited about, and unexpected things. It certainly wasn't on a goals list to go sailing around Europe for 8 years, or wasn't even on a goals list to live in an RV in Europe. So what I figured out was the only difference was how I was using my brain. And using my brain in a different way meant the difference between stress and struggle and lack of fulfillment to really magic happening in your life and living the dream. So that's what I spend my time now, not only learning more about myself and applying it to my own life, but helping and sharing it with others as well.
Oh, Wow, that's and now in order to do this, did you put your thoughts? Did you create I know you're doing a podcast, and I think that's incredible, especially knowing you're doing your podcast from your RV all over the world. I think isn't this an amazing world we're living in these days?
Oh, it's, anybody who says, I'm sorry to say, anybody who says we don't live in the best time in history
Yeah.
isn't using their brain the right way, because they're not seeing what is really here. And you're right, it's just so full of opportunity. And, as we travel around Europe, one of the things that I notice is the amazing abundance and how great the world is to be in right now. It's so, everything's been cleaned up, cities are so much nicer to be in, and it's so much easier to do anything. And so I think, we really do live in an amazing time. We're very lucky to be here.
This is so wonderful to have you visit with us today, because you are what we need. We need a little more positive thoughts. We need a little more positive inspiration. Lately, everyone has been so depressed. It's been so difficult, of course, with the war in Ukraine, and now we have this horrible situation taking place in Israel and Palestine. And everyone's likening it to though things have never been this bad. Although I'm sure, when people went through other things like World War II, they thought things could never get worse than that. And we're so in need of some positive energy. Don't you agree?
Well, I think what we need is some understanding about and awareness, because the thing about your brain is that it's really something that it's a perception machine. So it creates without getting into too much of the technical science, but it creates your own perception. So whatever is going on in your environment, how your brain interprets it in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And science has said that of all of the energy and all of everything that exists in the universe, we're only able to perceive 0.005% of everything that exists. So most of what's out there, we're not aware of at all. So what that really tells us is that everything is to do with our perception. And this machine that you have, your brain, is what creates your perception. So it actually goes way beyond positive thinking. I'm not a positive thinker, I'm a realist. But I use my brain in a certain way that my perception is different. And when you use your brain the right way, your perception expands and you see things in a different sort of way. And I know that's difficult for people to understand, because they say, well, what are you talking about? Of course, there are all these terrible things going on in the world. Are you denying that those things are going on? What I'm really saying is everything that you think and see is the result of your brain's interpretation of a certain amount of energy. That's the reality of it.
Yeah, and I've kind of always to myself felt like our brains are the most original, incredible computers that came prior to all the other computers that have followed. Right now we're going to take a short break. So if you are a whiner or someone who whines, this break is for you.
Lately, there's a whining epidemic in our world. People are even whining about whining. Are you sick and tired of listening to everyone whining all the time? So was January Jones, the author of Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th commandment that reached #1 at Amazon.com. Ms. Jones based her book on a survey of the top 10 things that people whine about at all ages and all stages of life. January is a success coach that can tell you how to help others. When you buy Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th commandment, you'll find out what people whine about and how to stop them from whining. This is the perfect gift book to give or get for any occasion. Thou Shalt Not Whine was voted the best gift to be given anonymously for those special people in your life. Ms. Jones is an internationally known author in the style of Irma Bombeck, specializing in housewife humor, with her book being published in Korea and China. You can find Thou Shall Not Whine at Amazon.com.
Welcome back with my guest, Liam Naden, who is visiting with us from Spain. It's so wonderful to have you with us today. And I have to just go back to this part where you were at sea for 8 years. I'm curious, when you look back on it, what was the worst thing about being at sea? And then what was the best thing?
Well, it was actually the same thing, which was uncertainty.
Oh.
Because when you think about it, when you're on a sailboat, you're at the mercy of the weather, and conditions change. And it's to a lesser degree the way I live now in an RV, is you're constantly making decisions. Where should I go? And when you're sailing on a boat, you might have to the weather might change, and you might decide to go somewhere else, or you might reach a destination. And this often happened to us, and we'd say, do we like being here? Is this what we expected? Yes, or no, we don't really like being here. So let's just stay for one day and then we'll move on somewhere else.
Okay.
Or we get somewhere and we thought, well, we didn't know if we'd like it, and we end up staying for months. That's, for instance, we went to Turkey. We were in Greece, in the Greek islands, and we were cruising down the Greek island coast, and we thought, should we pop into Turkey and have a look? And we didn't know a lot about it. And we thought, well, maybe we'll go for a couple of days and just say we'd been there. We ended up being there for 18 months. It was the most amazing place. The people, the food, the scenery, absolutely incredible. So the thing I learned, and this is so important to realize, is that when you use your brain the right way, what you start to do is you start to embrace uncertainty in your life, and you start to realize that you're not in control. There's a part of you that is in control, and that will guide you if you let yourself off the hook, and you let this part of your brain do its job to guide you to the best life possible and being the best that you can be. It will do that, but it's going to lead you to, it's going to take you to places that you're unsure about. It's going to introduce uncertainty in your life, and you have to allow things to unfold rather than trying to, and this is the problem most people have, they're trying to force things to happen in their life rather than realizing there's a part of them that knows what's best for them, knows how to get it for them, and they just need to use that part and allow it to happen. So uncertainty is a two-edged sword, but once you start to embrace it, life becomes an exciting adventure. I mean, that's what life's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be a struggle and a grind. It's supposed to be this experience we have where we're enjoying ourselves. That's why we're here. So that's what uncertainty is. And when you learn to, as I say, live with it and deal with it, which you certainly do on a sailboat, then it's a great skill to develop, and you realize that's the way life really is designed to be.
Oh, wow. I can really relate to what you're saying about Turkey, because many years ago, we were fortunate enough to visit there. And I totally fell in love with and felt like I had been there in previous lives with Ephesus. It was just like coming home. It was incredible. It was one of the most memorable trips of my life. I really enjoyed it. Before we go on too much, let's share with our listeners your information, your website. Let's share your podcast and books and how they can contact you. Could you do that now?
Sure. Well, it's just my name. My website is my name, which is liamnaden.com. Okay. And my podcast is there, and my books and my coaching programs. I have a free course at the moment, which people can sign up for, which is called How to Unlock Your Success Brain. And this is a simple 3-step process that will actually move your brain from the struggle part, the problems part, the stress part, to the part that does the things like brings you unexpected good things into your life. And when you really think about it, for most of us, all of the things that happen that are really of significance, they're not things we have on a goals list. We meet somebody and we marry them. How did that happen? It wasn't something we planned. Or we have a business opportunity, or we speak to somebody. All of these things are happening in a really, almost beyond our control, because there's a different part of our brain at work to make those things happen. So that's what my mini course shows you, is how, what I call your success brain, how to start using it to really make a difference in your life, a positive difference.
Okay, now let's talk a little bit about, thanks for sharing all that information so people can find you. How more simple could it be? liamnaden.com. That's my website too. My website is januaryjones.com. It's so easy. Let's talk about the most important piece of the puzzle that most people are missing when they're trying to get a grip on life.
I think the most important thing that people have forgotten about, we've all forgotten about, is nature controls everything. We're busy out there trying to be motivated and trying to make our life a certain way. But nature, the laws of nature govern everything. And for instance, you can walk out a 10-story building and you can have told yourself, you can be motivated, you can pray, you can work on changing your beliefs, and you can truly believe that if you walk off a 10-story building, you're going to fly into the air. You can believe that, but you won't. You'll fall to the ground. So it doesn't matter what you do with your thinking and your efforts, you're going to be controlled by nature. Again, try and stop breathing for a week. You can't control your breathing. You can't control your heart rate. There's something else. And it turns out that nature has these laws, one of them being the law of gravity, as I mentioned. But nature has a biological law, because if you were to ask any biologist or biological scientist, what is the purpose of life? Why are we here? Why does everything exist? The only answer they will give you is that all biological life, including us, their overriding purpose, what they're wired to do more than anything else, is to survive.
Okay.
We're all wired for survival. And biologically, what that means is that we're wired to try and find the way to have the greatest chance for survival. And the way we have the greatest chance for survival is by being our best. When we're strong, healthy, happy, when we're being our best, we have a much greater chance of physical survival than when we're sick and unhappy and unwell. We know all of that. And it turns out that nature has provided every organism. So every organism is designed to be the best it can be so that it has the greatest chance for survival. And every organism has been provided with a mechanism, a machine, a device, whose sole job is to ensure that happens, that organism survives to the best of its ability by being the best that it can be, and that is a brain. And we've got a brain with exactly the same purpose, to make sure that we are the best that we can be so that we have the greatest chance for survival. And that includes being our happiest. So on a biological level, we have this machine called a brain designed to make us happy, to ensure that we are happy, being our best, doing what we should be with our life, and not having problems and stress, because problems and stress don't help us be the best that we can be. They don't help us live longer. They don't help us survive. They do the opposite. Okay. So the only thing you can say is, why do we have problems then? Why aren't we the best that we can be? If their brain is designed to make sure that we are, well, there's only one reason, and that is, like any other machine, if it's not being used the right way, it's going to create problems. Imagine trying to drive your car down the road. You know what a car is. It's a machine very simply designed for one thing, to get you from where you are to where you want to go in the easiest, most efficient, most enjoyable way possible. But if you don't drive it properly, you're going to end up with problems. And when you end up with problems, you don't say, oh, there's something wrong with the car, or you don't say, this is the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to have an engine blowing up, or that, tires not working. You say, I must be doing something wrong. I'm driving it wrong. Exactly the same with your brain. And when you learn how to use it the right way, your problems disappear. Your perception changes, and you find you're doing the right things. You're making the right decisions. You're picking the right goals for yourself. And life doesn't become a struggle because you're using this machine called your brain. You mentioned earlier, your brain is a computer, and it's quite powerful. You know how powerful it is? It has the computing power of 500 trillion computer microprocessors. It's far and away the most powerful machine, powerful computer, far more powerful than all of the other computers on the planet put together. And it's got one purpose, to make you the best that you can be, to make you happy, fulfilled, excited, resourceful, doing the best with your life. That's what it's designed to do. And if your life doesn't reflect that, all you can say is, there's something about me using the machine that's creating problems. So I'm not using it the right way.
Right.
And I think that's the thing we've all missed. That's the thing I'd missed for decades when I was struggling to achieve success. I need to learn more. I need to set higher goals. I need to struggle harder. I need to fight against myself rather than just realize I was using my brain the wrong way. And no matter what I did, it's a bit like with a car. If you don't know how to drive a car, you might think, well, what I need to do is I need to get out from behind and push the car along. Maybe that's how you get it to work. And you put in all the effort, but it doesn't work. And you try harder, and you say, there's something wrong with me. I'm not motivated enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not putting in enough effort. But you're simply doing it the wrong way. It's not supposed to be that difficult.
Okay, this is fascinating. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, Liam is going to give us some tips on how to use our brains better. And did you know that it's been 60 years since the assassination of John Kennedy, and people are still asking who killed Kennedy?
Let me ask you a question. Are you still wondering who killed Kennedy? Over 50 years later, the assassination is still a mystery. It is unfinished business for our country. Now, get ready for a theory that you've never heard before, but will make more sense than any other conspiracy theory that you've ever heard in the past. January Jones speaks the unspeakable in her book, Jackie, Ari, and Jack, The Tragic Love Triangle, connecting Jackie and Aristotle Onassis romantically prior to JFK's assassination. Did you know that Ari was Jackie's guest in the White House during the JFK funeral? He was the only non-family member who was invited by Jackie to stay there during the funeral. Aristotle Onassis was one of the wealthiest men in the world, with the means, the motive, and the money to order an assassination that was the perfect crime of the last century. Ari needed class, and Jackie needed cash. They were perfect for each other. Now, what is Camelot? It is but another tragic love triangle. Jackie, Ari, and Jack is available at JanuaryJones.com, Amazon.com, and audiobooks.com, read by Ms. Jones.
Welcome back with our amazing guest, Liam Naden. And now we're going to talk about using our brain. And Liam's going to give us some tips on how we can use our brain more efficiently.
Well, it's quite simple, but not necessarily easy. The core understanding, and I go into great detail through my podcast and all my programs and coaching to help people understand how the brain actually works and how there are 4 parts to your brain, and they need to work together in a certain way for you to get the right results in your life.
Okay.
And for it to do its job properly, which is to make you the best that you can be. And it will do that if you allow it to. But here's the thing, the way your brain works, and without going into all the technical jargon of everything, in its core essence, your brain creates one of 2 emotional states. And depending on what that emotional state is, that will determine whether you stay stuck with problems and stress in your life and not really ever achieving what you know is your true potential, or whether you live your biological purpose of being the best that you can be. So those 2 emotional states are, one is a state of fear, and the other state is non-fear, if you like, where you're feeling good, happy, loving, resourceful. And here's what happens when you feel afraid on a biological level. And by fear, I'm also talking about anxiety, stress, worry, frustration, anger, because all of those actually come from, at their core, they're created by fear. So what happens on a biological level is when you feel that emotion, what your brain is saying is there is an immediate threat to your survival in your environment right now, because fear has only one purpose in your life, biologically. Our brain is designed for you to feel good using what I call the creative part of your brain, which is where your intuition, your resourcefulness, your imagination, your creativity, your motivation, your love, all of those things where you feel really good, that's your natural state. That's when you are being the best that you can be, and your brain is making sure you make the right decisions and do the right things and avoid problems and solve problems quickly and easily and see the big picture about what's going on in your life and who you are and what's going on in the world. That's all your natural state. However, there's only one time when you're not supposed to be being the best that you can be, and that is if something comes into your environment which is a threat to your survival. And biologically, when the brain was created millions of years ago, or whenever it was, there were a lot of threats. You know, you'd be walking along the forest and lions would be hiding behind the rocks, or snakes would be in the grass. So the brain developed a weapon or an emergency survival tool called the fight-flight mechanism, which obviously we've all heard of. And that's activated by fear. So what happens is the brain, when you activate the state of fear, when you feel fear or anxiety or stress, you activate something called your sympathetic nervous system, and it blocks off all of this creative part of your brain because it directs all of your resources to what the brain thinks it needs to do to get rid of an immediate threat to your survival. So jump out of the way from the lion, or shout for help, or fight it, or whatever it is. It's a response, a reaction, and we've all had that feeling where you just react to something.
Yeah.
So your brain has developed this tool, this weapon, to protect you from an immediate threat to your survival. But here's the thing, because of our programming, conditioning, habits, everything we've developed in our life, most people are activating this part of their brain nearly all the time. They're feeling fear, they're feeling stress, anxiety, frustration, and they don't realize that when they do that, they activate this sympathetic nervous system. They shut down all of their awareness, all of their problem-solving ability, all of their imagination, their creativity, when you get those aha moments, or you get those gut feelings about knowing what to do, or some unexpected event happens in your life. This is all the workings of your natural creative brain, but you shut all that down when you feel fear, when you activate this fight-flight response. And so instead of it being something that you might only use once or twice in your life, a car might come towards you and you jump out of the way. What you're doing with your brain, you've trained your brain to see threats to your survival when they don't exist. We've wired it. And this is part of the problem when you watch the news and you hear about a war or something. What happens? You feel bad. You feel stress. You feel anxiety. Now, why would you do that when there's something happening on the other side of the world? It's not affecting you. Or your wife tells you that they want a divorce, or your company's sales go down. All of these things create this fear and anxiety. And what's actually happening on a biological level is your brain has linked that event to your survival, and it's activated the part of your brain that is just the reaction part. And it's not the problem-solving part. It's not the part. This is why when people say when they feel bad, they can't think straight. We've all had that feeling. Your brain can't think straight. All of the thinking straight part is shut down when you're feeling fear, stress, and anxiety. So the real key to success is to realize that your enemy is fear. Anything that makes you feel bad in your life, you've got to eliminate or reduce as much as possible. And people say to me, oh, I can't do that. I've got all these responsibilities and stresses and problems in my life. But that's a little bit like saying, here's somebody coming to you and saying, drink this hydrochloric acid. And you would say to them, what do you mean drink hydrochloric acid? If I drink that, it's going to damage me or it's going to harm me. Yeah. Oh, no, they say, no, it won't. No, if you believe and if you trust and everything, and this is a different thing, don't worry, everything will be fine. You wouldn't believe them. You'd say, you are crazy. I know. Doesn't matter what the justification is. My grandmother comes along and says, please drink the hydrochloric acid. Doesn't matter what the justification is. If you put that into your system, it's going to damage you. And it's the same with fear, stress, and anxiety. No matter what you think your justification is, it's going to put you into the wrong brain state and keep you stuck. That's why you've got to spend your time on focusing on retraining your brain to see the difference between a lion and everything else.
That's an interesting concept. So are you possibly suggesting to me, to my husband, who we're both fearful about the world situation, are you saying just tune it out and stop listening to the news?
Well, one of the best things you can do is stop listening to the news. Absolutely.
Okay.
And, I stopped watching the news more than a decade ago, and that's when my life really started to turn around. Because here's one of the other interesting things about the news. A lot of the time, how do you know it's even true? So many things have happened that we've been told the latest disaster, the world's going to end and, oil is going to run out. In 1970, oil was going to run out in 10 years. In 1979, they said the polar ice caps are going to melt within a decade. In 1979. So again, when you raise your awareness and you realize that fear is the enemy, and you cut out the things that make you feel bad, you start to see things in a more expansive way, because you're opening up the creative part of your brain that sees the truth. So this idea that you need to stay informed and be a realist and realistic, what is the truth? What is reality? As I said right at the beginning, everything is your perception. You only see 0.005% of what is actually real. Several years ago, as we said, I lost everything, became homeless. Now, was that a bad thing? Or was that a great thing? What do you think? If it hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be talking to you. I wouldn't have learned all of this stuff about how the brain works, and my life wouldn't be the way it is. I'd still be going down that track of setting more goals and struggling and trying to make it all happen and getting frustrated and getting angry and having all these problems and stress. So it was a great thing. It was the best thing that happened. So what is reality? What is the truth? Another quick example, the Titanic disaster. Was that a bad thing? 1,500 people died on the Titanic. But the amazing thing about that is when that happened, because of that, they changed all of the laws surrounding safety at sea on ships. And far more people's lives have been saved since then because the Titanic sank than the ones who lost their lives. So was the sinking of the Titanic a bad thing?
Well, it certainly was a bad thing for the 1,500 people who died that day. But as you're pointing out, the repercussions, you actually, I have a grandmother, and she used to always live by that. The worst things in life that will happen to you will somehow turn out to be the best thing. And I think you're living proof of that right now. Yeah. The life
everything is perception. So you have to say, how's it making me feel? Because if it's making you feel bad, you lose. Yeah. You are stuck if you really want to make a contribution to the world, because remember, part of you being the best that you can be biologically is not only to help your own survival, it's to help the survival of everyone else around you. And when you're resourceful and being your best, you can be creative and you can contribute to society and the survival and the betterment of other people far more effectively than when you're all stressed and frustrated and afraid. So again, you need to realize that the most important responsibility you have is to ensure that you become you use your brain the right way, and it will guide you and make sure that you and everything that's important to you will be the best it can be. That's what it's biologically designed to do.
Yeah, and we have to give it a chance to do that. Right now, we're going to take a break. And have you ever met someone who was unforgettable? Well, I have. I've met many people like Liam who are priceless personalities. Have you ever met someone who was unforgettable? Someone who has touched your heart and soul? People who have faced difficult problems? People who have struggled to find solutions? People who fearlessly shared their stories? People who have not only informed you, but inspired you? People who have priceless personalities? I have been fortunate to host an internet radio talk show called January Jones Sharing Success Stories. and it has been my privilege to interview hundreds of guests. My guests have shared their stories, their struggles, their secrets, and their successes in their own words. In this book, we're talking about people dealing with problems such as incest, molestation, runaway kids, child abuse, drug abuse, polygamy, unemployment, scandal, and starting over. Then there are my guests dealing with difficult physical struggles such as blindness, cancer, and birth defects that are beyond traumatic. My guests have all been exciting, eclectic, and energizing. They have amazed, amused, and even astonished me. I have adored getting to meet them, and I adore sharing them with you.
Attention all listeners. Priceless Personalities, Success Stories Shared by January Jones, Volume 2 is now available at Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle editions. You'll be able to meet 10 amazing people who will be sharing their own personal stories with all their struggles, successes, and solutions, sprinkled with lots of humor and hope. Priceless Personalities features a teenager who becomes one of the famous Supremes from Motown, a nurse who as a humorist helps people to heal, an inspiring laughter yoga instructor, a mother dealing with the loss of a child, an incredible motivational speaker, a woman who married 5 times, a gifted paranormal nurse, a wise economist, a funny female humorist, along with an older man sharing his sweet childhood in the Deep South. January's guests are all amazing and amusing. You will never forget meeting them. Go to Amazon.com for your own priceless experience.
Welcome back with my guest, Liam Naden, and I'm enjoying this visit so much. I have a million questions to ask you. One of the things you say is that goals hurt us rather than help us in achieving success. Now, that seems like a real contradiction to me because I've always assumed you just have to have goals in life to be successful. What are you saying about that, Liam?
Well, the reality is that statement, you have to have goals in your life to be successful. With all due respect, it's what I discovered. It's like so many things that we've been told are true, but if you actually dig a little bit into it, you realize it's not true. And the accepted percentage success rate for goal setting is between 2 and 3%. In other words, of all of the goals that people ever set, they only achieve about 2 to 3% of them, if at all. And if you really think, if people who are listening really think about it, what goals have you set? Have you achieved them? Are you achieving them? Or are you continuing with this idea that you're on the right track and you're going to achieve that goal one day? Mm-hmm. So the reality is very few people, and even if you talk to the great gurus of success, they will admit to you that the people who go to their seminars and do all of their read all their goal setting stuff, very few people achieve in reality very much. And the reason is, when you're setting goals, most of the time you're using the wrong part of your brain. You're using the limited fear-based part of your brain, and you're thinking, I need to have this for me to be happy, or I really want to have that for me to be happy. And so there are 2 problems with that. One is the part of your brain that you're using when you're doing that doesn't know what you want. It can't. That's the other part of your brain, your creative brain. The fight, flight, fear-based, what I call your survival brain, that doesn't have any of the answers. All that knows is how to react. So if you say, what do I need to be happy? It's going to say, oh, you need $1 million, or you need $10 million, or you need an amazing marriage, or you need to be married to this person and needs to be really happy. It's just going to react. It doesn't have the true answer. The true answers to what you need for you to be happy is contained in your creative brain. And your creative brain doesn't operate by telling you what your goals should be. Occasionally it does. Sometimes you see something and you just know on a different level, I'm going to have that. You walk into a house and you say, I'm going to buy this house. Or you meet somebody and you say, I'm going to marry that person. And there's not any logic attached to it. And sometimes you think, that's a bit, it doesn't sound really realistic for that to happen, but it does happen. And it happens and it flows along and all the right things happen. And you find out you've achieved that goal. But that's a different sort of a goal. That doesn't come from struggle and needing something to happen for you to be happy. So the way your creative brain works is it doesn't usually show you the goal. What it shows you is the only thing you need to know, which is the next step that you need to take. Because on a biological level, the way your brain works, the way all of nature works, is with the most energy efficient, in the most energy efficient way possible. In other words, to conserve energy so that you get the most results out of the least amount of energy. That's the way all of nature works. And when you think about it, if your creative brain showed you what your goal should be and showed you the 20 steps to get there, what are you going to do? You're going to question it. You're going to think about it. You're going to analyze it. You're going to say, well, I'm not sure if that's what I really want. And hang on, you're going to waste all of that energy. But if it just shows you one step at a time, you're just going to do it. You just do it. And it's so much more efficient. And there's another place that is proof for this. I don't know about yourself, but a lot of people believe in the Bible. The Bible turns out to be the greatest manual on how to use your brain the right way that exists. Because what does it say in the Bible? It says more than 350 times, 364 times, I think to be exact, be not afraid. Those 3 words, be not afraid. And it doesn't say try not to be so afraid and don't worry about things. It's an instruction. Because when you're afraid, you're using the wrong part of your brain. You're shutting down the part of your brain that is designed biologically to bring you and make sure that you're the best that you can be. So it's telling you, don't be afraid. And it also says, give no thought for tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Okay. Do not worry about what you should eat, drink, or wear. This will all be provided for you. And if you look at the rest of nature, you look at a bird, you look at a plant, you look at an insect, it's not struggling to survive, usually. Everything it needs is provided for it to be perfect. But we've got it round the wrong way. So what are you doing when you're setting goals? You're giving thought for tomorrow. You're worrying about what to do and trying to figure it out. You're not allowing this part of your brain to do the work for you, to show you one step at a time. And when you do that, that's when miracles show up, and all of a sudden you find yourself sailing on a yacht around the world for 8 years, living in an RV in Spain.
Okay, we have to go now, and our message is be not afraid. And I'm going to also turn off the news. And my question to you before we go is, how long are you going to be in Spain, and where are you going from there? Or do you even know?
I take it one step at a time. I can tell you what I'm doing right now, which is talking to you, but I have no plans other than that.
Okay.
and the best thing that will show up.
Okay.
I know.
And, I have a million more questions to ask you. So I hope you will come back and visit with us again. Maybe when you get to wherever the next spot is, send me a message and we'll have you back and talk about where you are in the world then. I hope all of our listeners have gotten a lot out of this show. I certainly have enjoyed it. Be not afraid. What a wonderful message. Thank you for entering the No Whine Zone with us today. And remember, share our show with everyone you know. And you have to remember, stop whining and then just go out, start smiling, and be not afraid. And if that doesn't work, then you can just start eating chocolate, lots and lots of chocolate. Thank you, Liam. It has been a delight having you back with us again, and safe travels.
Thank you very much for having me, Genuinely. It's been wonderful to talk to you as well. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
We want to thank you for listening to January Jones Sharing Success Stories. Always remember Ms. Jones' personal mantra, if you can think it, you can do it. That's what all of our guests have done with their lives, and so can you. You are the ultimate success coach in your own life. All you need to do will be to start sharing your own story with your family and friends. We hope that our guest stories will encourage you to explore an equation in your future that will combine your creativity plus connecting with others will enable you to be successful too. Always remember, your passion plus your purpose will equal prosperity as you explore the wonderful world of January Jones.